And we are live. Hello, my friends. My name is Evelyn Joy, and welcome back to my channel. I have with us my awesome friend, teacher Kelly Tag. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right, and you guys will have to excuse my voice. I am sipping on some tea. I don't know, this month I've just been learning to be a quieter person. All right. Well, real quick, before we dive into everything we want to talk about, we are going to shout out Kelly Tag's YouTube channel. So as I scroll through it, we're going to show it on the screen. Do you want to talk a little bit about the content that you've had recently on your channel?
Sure. So in general, it's all about teaching, or actually I should expand that and say it's all about education, because recently I interviewed someone who homeschools, and that has to do with teaching as well.
Yeah.
But I'm a special ed teacher, so I've been doing more videos about that. There's a month in the life of a special ed preschool teacher at the end of the year. I just posted a video about Down syndrome and all of the, information about it. And actually tomorrow I will be interviewing Evelyn about raising a child with autism or an autistic child. So I'm going to do more videos talking about the different things you can encounter in the special ed classroom. But there's some of my older videos about VIP Kid. One of my most popular videos about how to get a provisional license in Virginia, and the other one about passing the ESL praxis. But so I talk a lot about, getting licensed. I've had a few videos. I did a series about getting out of teaching. So whether you're getting in or out, I've got videos for that. And I interview different people so that I can bring topics to you that you might know nothing about. So lots of things involving teaching.
Wonderful. And Teacher Kelly Tag also has an Instagram.
Yes.
That she posts on some. So very cool. Awesome. All right. Wonderful. That's your cute doggy. I like it. All right. Awesome. So we're going to rewind time to get some background. Now, you and I have been friends approximately 6 years because we were online teachers for the same company, VIP Kid, for a long time, and then also Outschool. So we have some overlap with companies we've worked for online. But before that, let's rewind time a little bit. What was your background? What sort of employment did you do even before you homeschooled?
Oh, okay. Well, what I went to school for originally, I was communications and I did video, but then I went to stay home with my kids, and if we needed money, I started doing jobs that worked with the kids' schedules. So that involved teaching, because if you get a snow day, you're off, or it's just a lot more flexible. I started substitute teaching. I was a para in the schools, and then I started the online teaching, both ESL and Outschool. So right. And then when it came to wanting to, a full-time job, I was like, well, I've been teaching now for years, even though I don't technically have a teaching certificate for the public school, but and I also have taught in a private school. So I've done it all.
That's awesome. I wanted to rack your brain a little bit with, so your own two kiddos have done some homeschooling and also done, was it public school that they did, or private, or I don't know.
Well, actually, my daughter has done all three. She did private school, homeschooling, and public school. My son has only done public school. It just kind of worked out that way. My daughter was going to a Christian preschool, and I wanted to send her to kindergarten there, so I did. It was just really expensive, so we needed to send her to public school. And the public schools where I live are really good, actually, so I couldn't justify paying the money, and she actually ended up being a little bit behind. So then I saw that, and I didn't want to send my son there. I homeschooled out of necessity because she was very sick. She was missing a lot of school. So I did it for a year. It wasn't for us. I feel like with all three forms of school, it really depends on the child and the parent.
And the school district.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yes. My daughter, she's motivated by grades and by somebody else. Like, definitely there are some kids out there who are just motivated, who like to learn, and those would be a good homeschooling. And I was also working part-time still, but it was still hard to keep up with it for me. And, it was hard to be mom and teacher. So it didn't really work for me. But I have done all three. And then I also, when my son was in high school, public school, I was teaching the same grade level in the private school. So I was able to see the differences there. And out of all three, I don't think one's better than the other. I do think it depends on the kid, the parents, the school district, the specific private school you might be going to, because they are very individual. So yes.
Very nice. That's awesome. All right. And then talk to me briefly about your online teaching experience. When you started, were you surprised, things that you liked or disliked about the online teaching experience?
Well, so first of all, I had a lot of trouble getting hired because that was when VIP Kid was doing the mock. But I really, at that time, my daughter's sickness got worse. I just had more doctor's appointments. We needed the money because the medical bills were getting high. But it was hard, even like subbing. I was literally trying to like fit in subbing around these doctor appointments. Okay, Wednesday morning, I can fit in a sub job, It was so hard. So I saw, like, I really needed something that was at home, flexible. And I really liked how VIP Kid, it was in the morning and then you were done. So you had your days free. And I remember, like, after I first got hired, I was trying to schedule a doctor appointment. I'm like, any day after 10, that was kind of nice. But anyways, after I went through all the mocks, I got like rejected. I tried again. Yeah. I tried some other companies, which is how I got hired by GoGo Kid. I actually got hired by them first, but but then VIP Kid came back to me after they rejected me and said, we're going to give you another chance. So I got hired with them and open slots for both, and VIP Kid is what just took off. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. And for those who don't know, a few years ago, China passed some laws and it kind of made that job. I mean, we have a few friends that are still working some slots with them, but it's not what it used to be.
Not at all. And then even before that happened, I got started with OutSchool, and in 2020 OutSchool was booming. Like, you could just put up a class and you could make so much more money. And so I had kind of scaled back at VIP Kid even before they completely went away. So, but I loved VIP Kid when I was in the heart of it. So I got really into just teaching in China and made friends online like you and some others. So
I honestly I would not wish 2020 back, but the 2020 bookings were nice.
They were. And I mean, like, I hate to say it because so many people were struggling, but like, we were lucky we already worked online. So we lucked out in that aspect. And then my husband's job also was within, you could only have like a certain number of people in the office for the office to stay open. And he was within that range. So we both were very lucky we were able to keep working.
Definitely. All right. And so you spent a year as a middle school teacher at a public school. Wait, were you at a private school before that?
Yes, I was kind of doing the private school while I was doing OutSchool. I think I started there in, was it 2021 or 2022? I don't know. It was a part-time job. So it was one class at high school. And so since it was just one class, you could just go there for that one class. So I was doing that while doing OutSchool. I was more doing that for the experience. And it was good experience before going to the public school. And for the middle school, I only did that for half a year. I didn't even do that for a full school year.
Oh, it was for a semester.
Yeah.
So tell me about your experiences at the public middle school. You were a social studies teacher, correct?
Right. And I started right after Christmas. So in January, it got to a point where we decided due to money and the economy, I need a new car. It was maybe time for me to start looking to go back full time. And so I had a friend who had a provisional license in Virginia, and she was telling me all about how to get one. So, since I was already teaching social studies at the private school and out school, I thought, oh, this would be, let's try this, and just started applying to jobs. This is where being green and not knowing what you're doing actually helped me because I didn't know, that you're supposed to first get a provisional license and first, get certified and then start applying. I just started applying. Yeah. And the principal ended up reaching out to me. I think I also emailed several principals. You can just find their email online. But this one principal, I had worked with his wife when I was a para. She was the vice principal and the one that hired me at the time. So we connected on that. And they were willing to hire me mid-year. Now, knowing what I know now, I would never, ever, ever start in the middle of the year ever again, even if I moved somewhere new. Because starting that school was hard. I'm about to get that in a minute, but also starting in the middle of the year was even harder because you're coming in, you're changing things from what they're already used to. And this particular set of students, I was their third teacher. There was a reason for that, which we'll get to in a minute, but it was rough. So keep in mind, I was only used to small groups of kids. At the private school, I had between 7 and 9 kids per class. And then at out school, I had from 6 to 10 kids per class. So I was used to small groups. So, I liked, older kids, you can dive deeper, you can have discussions. Well, that's kind of hard to do when you have a class of 30. Most of these kids don't want to be there. Whereas at out school, they chose your class. They want to be there or their parents want them there. It's different, and you don't have to worry about grades. You can just worry about the material, making it fun, and you have to worry about grades and getting through certain curriculum in the public school.
And even on out school, you can mute mics, you can turn off their ability to draw on the screen. You can even remove a student if they're really unruly. We have more power on out school. It's you don't have a mute button in the classroom.
Exactly. I thought that so many times when I was teaching middle school.
You.
Right.
I just want to turn off your cursor so you can stop drawing on your desk.
No. Right. Exactly. And these kids were just rude. So there was XA days, or some school districts call them A and B days.
Oh, so classes were longer.
Right. And then every other day you had different students. So the one day of the week, I had 3 classes in a row that were just awful. The first day, so it was actually my second day with students. I sent every period sent kids to the office. I had kids cursing me out, flipping a desk. It was awful. Wow. I literally wanted to quit the first day. My husband convinced me to stay.
Because he wasn't there.
I know, exactly.
I don't know if he would have. It takes a special person to stay it out and deal with the disrespect, and
it was hard. I barely made it through the end, and I did start taking a lot of days off toward the end, calling in sick.
Well, I know of someone who she did her student teaching in the middle school level, and it made her not want to be a teacher. And I wonder if she had done a younger grade, because I could totally see her as a first or second grade teacher, because she's just so sweet. And unfortunately, those sweet, loving, gentle spirits get trampled on by certain characters in the older grades sometimes, I think.
Yes, definitely. And I went on somebody else's channel and talked about this, and I got a lot of comments well, it's not always better in the younger grades. So let me just say, like you were saying, different personalities do better in different grades. And I think I definitely do better in the younger grades. Your friend may have. There's some people who do better in the older grades, and they would never want to teach younger. So
Yeah, some people are very much gifted for middle school or for high school, and there's just some really sweet, gentle spirits that just make a wonderful kindergarten teacher,
Right.
and
Yes.
they maybe wouldn't be the best to throw into a middle school classroom. And then there's also some teachers that can adapt to all different kinds of levels. I'm pretty good at adapting to any age, except if I have a whole classroom and a lot of them are disrespectful,
Yes.
that's pretty difficult for pretty much anyone, right?
Yes, and that was the issue I had. I had particularly one class that was real, like, I had some that were pretty bad, but one particular that was really, really awful, like every single student. I mean, it was so bad that at one point, and it was literally with like 1 or 2 weeks left of school, I had to rearrange the seating to the point where, like, this was a class right after lunch. I shut the door and one by one brought them in. Like, I had to pull stuff like that. It was so bad. Yes.
Yeah.
So never again middle. I think I would do high school before I did middle school.
Well, high schoolers are more mature than middle
Yeah.
schoolers. I don't
That
know. And it
too.
probably depends on the district as well, and just depends on what kids you end up with. But yeah, middle
True.
school's a little rough.
Yeah, both my kids even said, like, I think high school would be better. And if I did high school, I think I would only do an elective. So then it's the kids that chose to be there. Like,
Yeah.
what I've thought about doing, is I could teach. Some high schools have like a TV studio or video class, and I could totally teach something like that. And then for the most part, it would be the people that wanted to be there, unless they got like their last choice in electives or something. But
Yeah.
so
Very cool. So since your experience with being a middle school teacher with your provisional license, are you still working on your provisional license?
I actually got a new one. So I switched counties, I switched schools, I switched grades, I switched types, I switched everything.
Awesome.
And so when they, in my new county, went to look for my old provisional license, they couldn't find it. Maybe they accidentally never filed it, but I was fine with that. They actually told me it's less complicated if you don't have a provisional license for something else. So I basically got a new one this past year. And what they do is they put you in a cohort, which is like all the people who are in that college, all those college classes. You take the same classes, you're in the same program. They're all in the same boat. We're all trying to become special ed preschool teachers on provisional licenses. It's about 3 or 4 counties in my surrounding area that participate. And so, we've even started a text message thread, and we're trying to we got together one time in person. So we're trying to, even though it's all online, which I'm glad because I'm busy, I can imagine. And this school is maybe like 45 minutes away, so it would be like easy to get there. So, that is what they're doing. And they they're paying half the price, and they put you in the class. I don't have to worry about like signing up. They kind of do all that for you. So, and I was told, which I don't know, I haven't done elementary, but I heard that this license is easier to get than elementary, because in elementary you have to know like all 4 subjects, and you've got like the state standards. I mean, I have IEPs, so there's that, but with preschool and not having to know all the subjects, and in preschool you're just teaching to introduce the concept. You're not teaching for mastery, because they just go on to kindergarten, and a lot of kids actually who go to kindergarten have never even been to preschool. Preschool is not a requirement. So there's no like they have to know this by a certain day or anything.
True.
Yes.
That's awesome. So tell me about your job that you're doing now, and how is it going, and what kinds of special needs do you work with?
Okay, so this past year, what I did was I was an inclusion teacher in a Head Start class. There was a main general ed teacher who taught all the 20 students in the class. 3 of them in the class were mine. They did not have severe special needs because they couldn't have, or they would not have been in an inclusion class. So they had, it was more, I can't tell you specifics about students for obvious reasons, but it'd be more something like communication goals or something. And then in the afternoons, I would leave them and I'd go to different homes and work with kids one-on-one with their goals. And the one-on-one kids, it could be anywhere from 2 to 5 years old, and they could be anywhere from light needs like I had in the classroom or more severe. Most of them had lighter needs. And so what I heard is that they give you more of a lighter case if you're a new teacher. So I didn't have as many students on my caseload when the school started, but it's usually around January after Christmas that you start getting more on your caseload, because it's the beginning of the school year when teachers start noticing, hey, there's an issue. We need to get this kid. I
was trying to mute myself to sneeze, and then I just took myself off. Sorry.
It's okay. I thought maybe we lost you.
No, sorry.
No, but then so at the beginning of the year, they start getting tested, and it takes a few months for the testing. And then, it's like January when you start getting new kids on your caseload. So I started getting a lot more on my caseload and had a full caseload by the end of the year. So then it was like I was only at the school in the morning, going to see kids in the afternoon. But under the job description of special ed preschool teacher, there's different ways that can look. So this upcoming school year, my job, still special ed preschool teacher as the job title, but my job is going to be very different. So
what will that look like? Do you know yet?
Yes. I mean, I have an idea. So I moved schools. They eliminated my position, which was the inclusion in Head Start. There was only maybe 5 in the whole county of those positions, and I live in a huge county, huge. So there weren't that many, but I don't know, my understanding, I'm not totally sure, I heard the secondhand, is that like Child Find and Head Start couldn't agree. It's kind of, and I did kind of feel in the middle of things when it's like one organization's telling you need to do things this way and another is telling you need to do things that way. So that kind of was hard, but I mean, a little hard. It wasn't that big of a deal. So they eliminated my position. So when it came time to transfer schools, there's not many special ed preschool teachers. We're very high in demand, which is why they have a cohort and a provisional license. So anyone looking to get into teaching, that might be a good one. So I literally, within less than a week, when I found out my position was being eliminated, I got a new job just down the street from the one I have now. So they also asked me to work a double because there's so few special ed preschool teachers. What they're doing is they're offering, if you work, like if you take on a double caseload, your pay significantly increases. It's not double, but it's a good increase. So I was going to wait a year to do that after my son graduated, but I don't know. They kept asking me, and then the money was tempting, honestly. In a year from now, I want to have 2 kids in college. I want to save more for retirement. My husband has saved a lot for retirement, but maybe to stay-at-home mom or doing part-time jobs for years. I don't have that much personally. So I did go ahead and say yes to that. I'm a little scared of, the extra workload, what it's going to look like. But I'm teaching basically a class in the morning and a class in the afternoon. I'll have 2-year-olds in the morning. I will have 4-year-olds in the afternoon, a 6-6 peer model where you have 6 kids with IEPs and then 6 general ed kids who are supposed to be peer models to these kids. So I will be in a classroom all day. I might miss doing home visits. I kind of loved last year, part of my job, that I got to leave the classroom. Because I get bored easily. I don't like things being the same all the time. I kind of like that my schedule was different every day. I was always going somewhere different. But the great thing about this job, because it's so high in demand, if I do this for a year and I decide I hate being in the classroom all day, I want to go back to doing home visits, I can do that next year. They'll have space. I know it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be next year. before I accepted it, I was nervous about having time to write IEPs and plan and things like that. And so I asked a lot of questions. And at Child Find, they were telling me, well, why don't you work with your principal to maybe once a month, once every other week or something like that, get a sub so that you can have planning time. I talked to, not the principal, but she's kind of in charge of the preschool. I talked to her about that as well. And she said, yes, that's definitely something we can do. So they're willing to work with me to make this work, but I'm still a little nervous about the workload. I'm getting paid for the new workload, but I'm nervous about it as well.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
Yeah.
I mean, 2-year-olds make me nervous.
Me too. And this is special ed as well. So that's hard because at 2, they can't really talk to you. So it's going to be more, they're going to cry, I'm afraid. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I've heard it's a lot of just working on communication. You're trying to get them to talk. Usually if they're in special ed, they have delays in talking. So,
yeah. Well, one thing I will say, and every kid is different, but music helps a lot. So when my autistic son was a toddler, like 2 and stuff, I did a lot of singing. So, and I still do, but because music engages both sides of the hemisphere of your brain. And so it's interesting how much language he learned from songs more than actual talking. And so I use music to my advantage a lot with him, especially. So like if it's cleanup time, sing a cleanup song or, whatever it is. We watch a lot of, we're working on potty training. Oh, Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for joining us. So I use a lot of potty training songs lately.
Great idea. Yes, and I did notice that my cousin's daughter has Down syndrome, or I've also worked with, I used to babysit someone with Down syndrome. So I've worked with different disabilities. And even from this past year, I did have a few students who would communicate by singing. Or, they would I had one student in the classroom, he would just be playing, but he was always singing. I'm a terrible singer, so I guess I'll be using a lot of YouTube videos for the songs.
Well, I like my son we couldn't be like, where's your nose? Point to your nose. He wouldn't respond, but he'll point doing head, shoulders, knees and toes, and then you go eyes and ears and a mouth and a nose. So it's like the pediatrician will say, can he point to his nose? Well, he can do head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Does that count? Right. That's as close as I can get you.
Right. Do they count that? I think that counts.
It doesn't count as the social responding to the question. That's one of their indicators of autism, is like being able to point to things and respond to questions like that. So it depends on what they're looking for on their checklist, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. Rebecca's gonna watch the rest later. Okay, very cool. Yeah, we have 3 people watching. Feel free to say hello in the chat box. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to talk about with the economy, how it's going. I think a lot of people are heading back to teaching in the classroom or trying it out for the first time. Each state is a little bit different with provisional licensings and things. I actually went to a job fair yesterday and I was talking to a lot of people with the school district, and I was really excited to find out about a program that I could actually be hired. Well, this 2 different programs. One of them is they're willing to hire me as a part-time para during the morning time when my son will be at pre-K and I could be at his school. So that's like, thank you, Jesus. That was like a huge God thing. And then the second one is like for next year. The reason I would like to get a master's and licensing and everything in special education is because special education teachers in the school district get paid $50 an hour. So I'm like, that job looks really nice.
So how does that compare to the other general ed teacher scale?
So I'm not sure,
okay.
but a para makes like the para position I'm applying for is like $18.75 an hour, which is decent, but I think I make more than that on OutSchool, except for my classes aren't really booking on OutSchool, so it doesn't really hardly count right now. But
Right.
the bookings are really low on OutSchool right now. But and then so they would actually hire me for the position that I would like. They would hire me for it now or next year. And then they would help, kind of like a provisional license, help pay for the education I would be doing at the same time. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there for people who, it depends on the state you're from, right?
Right.
Also, a friend of mine was looking into substitute teaching, right?
Mhm.
So I had a couple different friends I was communicating with, one who used to be a substitute teacher and one who's trying to get into substitute teaching. And she looked up all the criteria to be a substitute, and it looked like she didn't meet the criteria. But our other friend, so my friend who's applying, she was like, well, I have an expired teaching license from another state, but they're saying I need a teaching license. I need all these things to be a substitute. And
Wow.
we were like, wow, we thought substitute didn't have that many requirements, right? And she was like, well, I guess they're getting stricter. But my other friend said, no, you have to, for our state, which I don't talk about what state I live in here, but there's different states, different requirements, right? For our state, you can apply for an emergency substitute license. So all you have to do is the background check, the fingerprints, and get a TB test and stuff like that. And I think do a physical. And then you can get an emergency substitute license. Well, there's such a need for substitute teachers that you can get plenty of subbing positions just with that license. So it's good to know that you don't have to have the full degree or the full license already in order to get a job right now, because in 2024, the groceries are going up, the gas is going up, housing is astronomical. So if someone's looking for a house right now, it's like doubled in price or more. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we're kind of needing jobs that pay more. And so it's awesome to know and get the word out to other teachers that there are ways to increase your income. You know what I mean? So.
Yes. Well, actually, I'm kind of surprised they have that strict of requirement where you live, because so in the county where I live, you only need a high school diploma. That's it. You could be 18 right out of high school and you can be a sub. And then the county where I work, which is not where I live, you have to have some schooling, but you don't have to even have a full bachelor's degree. But if you don't have that certain amount of schooling, you can still be a substitute for a para. So right. So, wow, I'm surprised they have such strict requirements, considering it is so hard to find subs as it is. They want you to have a teaching license. Well, if you had a teaching license, wouldn't you just teach unless you wanted a part-time job? Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. But yes, so I won't say what state Evelyn lives in, but there's 49 other states. I've already said where I live. But we did, when we were both looking into it, we realized what they call a provisional license in your state is different from what they call it in my state. So there also could be different definitions, because where I live, a provisional license means that like you basically have all the privileges of a certified teacher. You're just promising while you get the benefits, you get the pay, you're on the pay scale, you get to like go up in the pay scale each year, like everything as if you were a certified teacher, but you're just getting the certification while you're doing it. I forgot, but yours sounded like you can't even start teaching until you have some kind of license, although you said something about an emergency license.
Well, yeah. So the substituting, you only have to have, in order to, you have to apply for the emergency substitute license, and then you can apply for subbing jobs. And all you have to do for that, but they don't make that very clear, because all the websites say, oh, you need this list of requirements, and people will just look at it and think, oh, I can't apply for that. It's kind of in the fine print that you kind of have to know somebody to tell you.
Yes. That's what actually I try to tell people on my channel too. For a provisional license, emergency, like all these other things, they're not always on the internet, because what happens is schools do these things when they get desperate. So the internet doesn't always catch up with what they're actually doing. So I've done shorts where I said, call HR and talk to a person and ask, because you can't always just Google it. Actually, when I first started looking into it, I was going to go to one of those alternative certification programs. That's what the internet told me to do, that I had to do that before I even got into it. And luckily I had a friend who had a provisional license. They said, you don't have to do all that. You can like start teaching now while you're getting certified. So and you said like the emergency license for substitute, none of it, it's all on the down low, because it happens when schools get desperate, and schools are desperate because there's a teacher shortage. There's a sub shortage. Call HR and ask.
The job fair I went to yesterday, they have like 56 para positions they're trying to fill. And there's like 20 people that showed up to the job fair, but they've also got other positions they're trying to fill too. So there's like a bunch of positions they're trying to fill, but the pay is not that great. You know, it's like some of the positions are $15 an hour and stuff like that. But they were talking to me. They said, can we interview you right now? And and they said, I just have to get special permission to have you just work part-time instead of full-time. But I think we can get you in, because it's better to have somebody than have nobody, you know? And they said it's like $18.75, but it can go up from there depending on your experience. And since I'm bilingual, it might go up. So I was explaining to them, you know, I think it's a benefit to both be bilingual and also have like education in special ed and training to be a para and stuff like that, because there are a lot of kids, at least in my district, who are special needs, but also their first language is Spanish. So it's kind of like, I don't just want to be an ELL aide like I used to be. I would like to help meet the needs of kiddos that may not know that much English and might be autistic, you know what I mean, or have another special need. So I feel like that helps fill in the gap. Whereas I used to interpret for IEP meetings. So I saw some of that need, but now that I'm a special needs mama, I have more of a passion to help meet that need. You know what I mean?
Oh, that is so true, because the district where I work now, because now I work in a different district where I live. A lot of the kids speak Spanish. A lot of the people, the families speak Spanish. I feel very out of it that I don't know Spanish. So I did try, you know, I upped my time on Duolingo. And I do have to say, I had one little boy in the classroom, in my Head Start classroom, who his first language was Spanish. And even just knowing basics, because remember, we're talking preschoolers, helped me with him. It helped me like, oh, he's saying more words than I realize. And, you know, and when they're going through those milestones, like how many words do they know? It counts if they're saying words in their own native language too. And I was able to see like, oh, he is saying more words. Like, you know, he'd point to the picture and say, Casa dos hermanos. Oh, okay. He's telling me 2 brothers live in his house. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, just learn. I know there's kids who speak a plethora of languages, and the county where I live, they told us this at the orientation last year, but we're like the most diverse county in my state, which actually I was kind of surprised at that. There's a few others that I thought would have been more diverse. But we have all kinds of languages. But at least if I could learn Spanish, which is the most spoken second language, that would help. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I have more confidence going back into the classroom because I have that experience that I worked in the public school, so I a little bit know what to expect. Also, this is a school district that I used to work in, so I'm familiar with it. And I grew up in the school district, so it's nice that I know this district has more funding for things like paras, whereas neighboring districts don't have that funding, and so they have more of a lack. So I'm appreciative for this area that their schools are a little bit higher quality, which is nice. They're able to meet the needs. And I was in tears a couple different times talking to the different ladies at the job fair yesterday because they were so friendly and nice, and they were talking about the special education department and how some of the classrooms have a 7-to-1 ratio of the special needs kids to a special education teacher. And that's just going to be so much better for my son, because trying to imagine my son just thrown into a classroom of 30 students with maybe a teacher that doesn't have as much experience with special education, I just don't know how well he would handle it or how well he would be treated. So it's just so precious and special to be able to meet some of those ladies and be reassured that not only are they going to take good care of him, but they have experience taking care of kiddos just like him that have similar needs to my son, that might be a runner. So they're prepared to keep him safe. They have kids that are still working on toilet training. Like my son's getting better, but he's still working on it. He's 4.5, and stuff like that. And with communication, it's so awesome. It was so encouraging to talk to them yesterday because just to know that they are prepared to work with him, and also they're prepared to hire me to be nearby in case, if he needs me for something, so that was really encouraging.
Yes, they are. So the public school has, they are set up for that. They know how to handle it. And earlier we were talking about public, private, or homeschooling. Personally, I think if you have a child that needs any type of special education, public school is the way to go, because public school has to educate all students. They have to. So they have programs set up for that. I feel like private school is good if you have like an average kid, and most kids are average. That's why it's called average. But, they usually have the religious aspect, which there's advantages and disadvantages to all of them, like I said. But yes, the public school is set up for that.
But it really depends on the district, and it depends on the teachers and everything. So it was just so encouraging to go to a job fair that have really friendly, encouraging, kind people. Because I have a friend of mine in a neighboring district who went to a meeting about substitute teachers, and they were very strict and rough and rude, and not like, they were like, don't call my number or I won't answer, and all this stuff.
Wow. So there's a sub shortage, and that's how you treat people who come and want to get hired to be a sub. That makes no sense. And then if you're a teacher, be nice to the subs. They're more likely to come back to your school.
Yeah. I was telling my friend, the positive thing about substituting is they give you, well, at least in our area, they give you a little bit of freedom that you can accept or reject a job.
Oh, yeah.
And if you substitute at a school and have a bad experience and decide you don't want to substitute for that grade or for that school again, you don't have to. And then also you can take all the sick days you want, because it's very you get to pick when you want to work, basically. So that's the nice thing about substitute.
Yeah. Subbing is so flexible, right? Well, I used to sub at all different schools all over the county, and same thing. If you don't like one, just don't go back. That's the beauty of subbing. So the county where I live, the only thing they do that my county doesn't do is they have building subs, which I thought was a great idea with the sub shortage. I've wondered how I can suggest this to the county I work in now, but building subs they work a set schedule in a particular school. So one particular school, some work full-time, some work part-time, 2 or 3 days a week, but you always are showing up at that particular school. So then those are the people they use. If they can't find subs, like when I worked at the middle school, they always had to put in for a sub no matter what. But then if nobody clicked on that job, they had those people. They were also the ones, that could cover a class, if a teacher had an IEP meeting or something. And if they didn't have any of that type of stuff for you to do, you could help in the office, or you'd be on duty to watch over the bathrooms, which you needed in middle school, stuff like that. So I think building subs are a great idea. If any, one is listening who hires subs, building subs are really, really good. So.
That's so awesome. Another thing, if you spend a year subbing, maybe while you're working on a license or something, totally depending on where you're at, right? Is you can come to get to know the different buildings in the different schools and find out which which grade level clicks better for you or which
Yeah.
school is your preferred one. And then you can be looking for job positions at that school. So subbing kind of gives you an overview idea. My mom substituted at a bunch of different high schools, and she knew which area she wanted to move to because that was the better high school for us. So that was pretty cool to be able to scope that out, to know like this high school, the kids are more rowdy. This high school, they're kind of more behaved. There really are different schools that are different levels of behavior as well, or different
Right.
administration too.
Definitely, definitely. And actually, that's the advice I would give to someone who's in college going to school for teaching is before you get that teaching license, go substitute at different schools and make sure you like middle school. So luckily for me, I was on a provisional and technically not even, I found out later, where I could just go switch and be like, I hated middle school. I'm going to go try special ed preschool. Whereas a lot of my coworkers who were unhappy, they were like, oh, well, I'm only certified in this subject for middle school or middle and high school. So before, like, don't go through and get all that schooling without subbing and figuring it out. And like I said, there are some districts out there that will hire you just with a high school diploma for a substitute teacher. So, or even some will at least allow you to sub for a para. So try that first.
Yeah. I personally know 2 different people who went through the whole college experience to be a teacher, and then at the student teaching level discovered they did not like it.
Yeah.
So that's a difficult time to find that out because you already did all that schooling.
Right.
So that's a great suggestion to do. I mean, you need a job when you're in college to pay the bills anyway. I worked a bunch of jobs. Maybe not everybody does, but substituting is a great idea.
Right. And even like you have a different schedule than the public school. So you're usually off for a longer period of time at Christmas. So maybe there's a week when, before they go on break, or, usually get out earlier in the summer than they do. So that's a month you could substitute teach.
Very cool. So what is it like being the mama of someone that's in college and someone that's in their senior year?
I know. It's hard. They need you a lot less, which is kind of sad. My son used to be like a mama's boy, and now he just retreats to his room. So it's harder. My daughter is, I feel like I have the best of both worlds because now she's living at home half time, and then the other half of the time she's living with my parents because she's going to community college, and her community college and her job are near my parents. So she's with them Monday through Thursday. Then she's at our house Thursday night to Monday morning. So I feel like she's left, but hasn't really left. And the weekends are when you're home the most anyway. So I feel like I didn't really, not like someone who just loses their kid who goes off to college and you see them 3 months later. So I feel like, it's a way to ease me into it. I know most people don't. And I feel like our relationship is kind of going into more of like a friendship. And I'm glad we've been able to build it that way. But it's hard in the fact that they just don't need you as much. And that's really hard. So my son's really busy with soccer, and even though I'll be working a lot this next year, I'm going to try to go to most of the games. I can't say all the games because he has so many of them between high school and travel, because next year in a year, he'll be off at college and I won't have that anymore. So it's definitely different. You don't have to worry about childcare. I wouldn't be able to work in a different county than I live. If you have little kids, you have to work in the same county so that when you're off, they're off. If you get a snow day, they get a snow day. So
exactly. Yeah. And even the schedule, my friend and I both have gone from being homeschool moms to this year our kids are trying public school and trying to find jobs that line up with the schedule. And we're both seeing that it kind of has to be in the same district as your kids are in, because her district starts at 8:50 and ends at 3:50, and my district starts at 8:10 and ends at 3:10. So it's like if she worked for a different district, the schedule wouldn't line up and she would have to pay for like before or after school care. And we're finding out that's like $60 a week per kid. Like
Right.
prices of things in 2024 is insane because even enrollment fees is $100 a kid and we pay taxes. Like what? And the school supply lists are really expensive, but we bought all the school supplies. We have them. But man, I was surprised. It's interesting. You go from homeschooling to public school because you can't afford homeschooling anymore. And public school is expensive too.
It is. Yes. Same. Like there was one day when, you know, my county had a snow day, but where I worked didn't. So, I mean, luckily my son's old enough to stay on his own, but definitely couldn't do that if you know, had little kids.
Little kids. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. Do you think, is there anything that you were hoping we would discuss today that we didn't bring up?
I can't think of anything. I think we covered it.
Yeah. Well, I sure appreciate all of your expertise and your advice and your experience and just hearing what you've been through. I think it's interesting. We've gone through a lot of things together as we kind of lost our VIP kid jobs and then the pandemic happened and stuff. And now it seems like the economy is making everything so expensive. So we're just kind of rolling with the punches and sometimes that calls for changes in job as time goes on, right?
Right.
But it's interesting how our teaching experience rolls over on our resume onto the next job, you know?
Right.
So,
we're like following each other. We both did VIP kid, out school. Now you're going to do special education. So
yeah. Well, actually watching your story kind of inspired me and made me the gears in my head start turning and helping my friend apply for jobs and looking at all the different kinds of income that are in the public schools made me really start to think I would love to be a special education teacher, you know? And so now I'm going to pursue a master's in that. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, that's great. I'm so happy to learn that it was my story that inspired you or helped you.
Yeah, it was definitely a piece of encouraging me that, hey, if my friend can do it, you know, who's to say I can't do it too? And then I've also been talking to other friends. I have another friend that because I'm working on my master's, she was like, I was thinking I was too old to work on my master's. And I'm like, you're never too old to continue education. And so she's kind of doing it. She was also a VIP kid teacher and now she's an out school teacher. So we're kind of, some of us are doing these things around the same time. So it's kind
right. I don't know how old your friend is, but I know I'm older than you. So, you know,
so
age doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. So yeah, very cool. And also like with the economy, how it's going, if you can continue education to improve your pay, it's like a worthy investment of your time and efforts because in the long run, you're going to be really thankful to have that licensing in your back pocket. And that's going to be something you can always, for example, even teaching on OutSchool, if I put that I'm a licensed teacher and then I have a master's degree in education, there's certain states that will pay for online classes and stuff. And so I may get more students on OutSchool as well. So
right. And also, well, it depends on the state, but where I live, on the teaching scale, your pay goes up if you have a master's. So when I finish this program and I have a master's too, my pay will jump for that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes, that's wonderful. So very cool. Yeah. All right. Well, tomorrow, make sure you check out Teacher Kelly Tagg's YouTube channel. It's going to be posted. What time is it again tomorrow?
It's 10:30 Eastern or 9:30 Central. You're coming on my channel. So
that's great. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Bye. Bye.